Today, we will walk through how to submit a wage report using the EFW2 file format. To help us build the file, we'll reference the EFW2 format instructions available in the Employer and TPA resource section of MyUI University. We'll keep these instructions on the left side of our screen so we can follow along as we go. EFW2 files must be submitted as text files and use a fixed length format. This means each field must begin in a specific position within the file. Additionally, each record must be exactly 512 characters long, so your cursor should be in position 513 before pressing enter. Not all EFW2 data fields are required by the Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency. For any fields not required by Michigan UIA, you should either leave those positions blank or enter the data specified in the standard EFW2 format as applicable. If a field name is titled blank, we will enter blanks in those positions. Wage reports submitted using the EFW2 format include two record types, an employer header record and an employee record. Every EFW2 file must begin with an employer header record. As a reminder, because EFW2 is a fixed length format, each field must start in a specific position within the text file. I will call out those positions as we move through the process. Let's go ahead and get started with the employer header record. Starting at line 1, columns 1 and 2, we will enter the record identifier for the employer. The record identifier for the EFW2 file format is always RE. In columns 3 through 6, we will enter the reporting period in the CCYY format. We will go ahead and enter 2026. For the EFW2 file, Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the agent indicator code, employer identification number, and the agent for employer identification number. So we will fill columns 7 through 25 with blanks instead. Column 26 is where we will indicate whether or not this is the employer's final wage report. This would be because they are terminating or inactivating the business. We will enter the number 1 if yes, and 0 if no. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the establishment number and other employer identification number for the EFW2 file. So we will enter blanks for columns 27 through 39. Columns 40 through 96 are where we will enter the employer name with spaces as needed. Since EFW2 is a fixed length file format, once we are done entering the employer name, we will enter blanks till we hit column 97. We will then enter the employer address line 1 in columns 97 through 118. This includes things like attention, suite, room number, etc. Once we have entered the address, we will follow the same guidance indicated before and enter blanks till we hit column 119. If there is no address line 1, we will enter blanks in those columns. Columns 119 through 140 is where we will enter the employer address line 2, meaning street, post office box, etc. Once we have entered the address, we will follow the same guidance indicated before and enter blanks till we hit column 141. If there is no second address, we will enter blanks in those columns. Now we will enter the city name in columns 141 through 162. Once entered, we will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 163. We will now add the 2-character state abbreviation for the employer's location in columns 163 and 164. The state abbreviation will be followed up with the 5-digit zip code in columns 165 through 169. Next, in columns 170 through 173, we will enter the 4-digit zip code extension. If there is no zip code extension, simply enter 4 blanks instead. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the kind of employer, foreign/service province, foreign postal code, country code, employment code, tax jurisdiction, third-party sick pay indicator, employer contact name, employer contact phone number, employer contact extension, employer contact fax number, or the employer contact email/internet. So we will enter blanks from columns 174 through 318. We will enter the employer account number without any symbols or blanks in columns 319 through 325. Next, we will enter the reporting period quarter in the QQ format in columns 326 and 327. The quarter should reflect the last month of the reporting period. So quarter 1 is represented by 03, quarter 2 by 06, quarter 3 by 09, and quarter 4 by 12. So for quarter 1 of 2026, we will input 03. In columns 328, we will enter Y if the employer has apportionment program indicators as activated, and enter N if the employer has apportionment program indicators as deactivated. If the employer wishes to request apportionment for the first quarter taxes, the apportionment indicator will need to be activated. We will follow up with a filler, meaning we will enter 184 blanks for columns 329 through 512. So we can hit the required 512 characters and position the cursor on 513. We will now move on to the employee record by clicking Enter. Notice that we are now on line 2, column 1. This is because this is the second record within the file. All employee records will begin with the RS record identifier. Next, we will enter the Michigan code in columns 3 and 4. This number must be 26. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the taxing entity code for the EFW2 file, so we will enter blanks for columns 5 through 9. We will enter the Social Security number for the employee in columns 10 through 18. Do not include any hyphens when entering the Social Security number. Now it is time to enter the name of the employee, starting with their first name in columns 19 through 33. Once the first name is entered, we will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 34. If there is no first name, enter blanks in columns 19 through 33. We will enter the employee's middle name or initial in columns 34 through 48. Once the middle name or initial is entered, we will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 49. If there is no middle name or initial, enter blanks in columns 34 through 48. Now it is time to enter the employee's last name in columns 49 through 68. We will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 69. If there is no last name, enter blanks in columns 49 through 68. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the suffix, location address, delivery address, city, state abbreviation, zip code extension, foreign Michigan/province, foreign postal code, country code, or optional code. We will add 5 blanks between zip code extension and foreign Michigan/province. So in total, we will enter blanks from columns 69 through 196. We will then enter the reporting period year and quarter in the CCYYQQ format in columns 197 through 202. The quarter should reflect the last month of the reporting period. So quarter 1 is represented by 03, quarter 2 by 06, quarter 3 by 09, and quarter 4 by 12. So for quarter 1 of 2026, we will input 202603. Now we will enter the total UI gross wages earned by the employee during the reporting period in columns 203 through 213. Note that this should be justified to the right and there should be no commas or decimals included. The last 2 digits will be considered the cents figure. For example, if an employee made $10,000.99 in a quarter, we would enter 00001000099 in the field. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the total UI taxable wages, number of weeks worked, date first employed, or date of separation. So we will enter blanks for columns 214 through 242. This will be followed up by a filler, meaning we will enter 5 blanks for columns 243 through 247. In columns 248 through 254, we will once again enter the employer account number for the business associated with this employee. The employer account number will be followed up with a filler, meaning we will enter 19 blanks for columns 255 through 273. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the state code, state taxable wages, state income tax withheld, other Michigan data, tax type code, local taxable wages, local income tax withheld, or Michigan control number. So we will enter blanks for columns 274 through 337. In columns 338 through 340, we will enter the reporting unit number, also known as the location number for the employer. If there is no reporting number, we will enter 3 zeros. Columns 341 through 343 is where we will enter the employment data for months 1 through 3. For each of the 3 months in the quarter, we will add separate indicators to show whether or not the employee was employed on the 12th day of each month. The number 1 will indicate that the employee was employed on the 12th of that month, while a 0 will indicate that they were not. In columns 344 and 345, we will enter the proper adjustment code for the wage report. A code of 00 means that this is the original filing, and a code of 01 means that this is an adjustment. A blank field is treated as a 00 for an original filing or as a 01 for an adjustment. But there are also valid codes from 00 to 10. For a description of adjustment codes 02 to 10, review the file format instructions on MyUI University. Columns 346 and 347 is where we will enter the state code where out-of-state wages were earned using the USPS postal abbreviation. If no out-of-state wages were earned, enter 2 blanks. Columns 348 through 358 is where we would enter the out-of-state wages earned by the employee during the reporting period. Note that this should be right justified and there should be no commas or decimals included. The last 2 digits will be considered the cents figure. For example, if an employee made $10,000.99 in a quarter, we would enter 00001000099 in the field. If there is no out-of-state wages to report, we would enter 11 blanks. Column 359 is where we will enter the officer code. We will insert a Y if the employee is an owner or officer of the business, and an N if they are not. If this field is left blank, the system will default to an N. In column 360, we will enter the seasonal indicator to show whether the employee worked during the pay period that included seasonal wages. We'll enter a Y if the employee is seasonal and an N if they are not. Next, we will enter the visa wage indicator in column 361 to show whether the employee has reportable visa wages. This field is required only when obligation assessment is in effect. We'll enter Y if visa wages are active and an N if they are not. If left blank, the system will interpret the field as an N. Column 362 through 375 is where we can enter obligation gross wages paid to the employee during the reporting period when the obligation assessment is active. Because the obligation assessment is not currently active, we will enter 14 zeros. It's important to note that we are entering zeros and not blanks. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter supplemental data 1 and supplemental data 2. So we will enter blanks in columns 376 through 487. Finally, we will enter 25 blanks so our record is the required 512 characters and our cursor is in position 513. Let's go ahead and enter another employee. We will once again click Enter to begin this record on line 3, column 1, and we'll once again type the RS record identifier. Next, we will enter the Michigan code in columns 3 and 4. This number must be 26. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the taxing entity code, so we will enter blanks for columns 5 through 9. We will enter the Social Security number for the employee in columns 10 through 18. We will not include any hyphens. Now it is time to enter the name of the employee, starting with their first name in columns 19 through 33. Once the first name is entered, we will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 34. We will enter the employee's middle name or initial in columns 34 through 48. Once the middle name or initial is entered, we will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 49. Now it is time to enter the employee's last name in columns 49 through 68. We will follow up with blanks as needed to hit column 69. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the suffix, location address, delivery address, city, state abbreviation, zip code extension, foreign Michigan/province, foreign postal code, country code, or optional code. So we will enter blanks for columns 69 through 196. We will then enter the reporting period year and quarter in the CCYYQQ format in columns 197 through 202. So for quarter 1 of 2026, we will input 202603. Next, we will enter the total UI gross wages earned by the employee during the reporting period in columns 203 through 213. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the total UI taxable wages, number of weeks worked, date first employed, or date of separation. So we will enter blanks for columns 214 through 242. This will be followed up by a filler, meaning we will enter 5 blanks for columns 243 through 247. In columns 248 through 254, we will once again enter the employer account number for the business associated with this employee. The employer account number will be followed up with a filler, meaning we will enter 19 blanks for columns 255 through 273. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter the state code, state taxable wages, state income tax withheld, other Michigan data, tax type code, local taxable wages, local income tax withheld, or Michigan control number. So we will enter blanks for columns 274 through 337. Next, we will enter the reporting unit number for the employer in columns 338 through 340. Columns 341 through 343 is where we will enter the employment data for months 1 through 3. For each of the 3 months in the quarter, we will add separate indicators to show whether or not the employee was employed on the 12th day of each month. In columns 34 and 35, we will enter the proper adjustment code for the wage report. Columns 346 and 347 is where we will enter the state code where out-of-state wages were earned using the USPS postal abbreviation. Since this employee did not earn out-of-state wages, we will enter 2 blanks. Columns 348 through 358 is where we would enter the out-of-state wages earned by the employee during the reporting period. Since they did not earn out-of-state wages, we will enter 11 blanks. Column 359 is where we will enter the officer code. We will insert a Y if the employee is an owner or officer of the business, and an N if they are not. In column 360, we will enter the seasonal indicator. Enter a Y if seasonal and an N if not seasonal. Next, we will enter the visa wage indicator in column 361 to show whether the employee has reportable visa wages. This field is required only when obligation assessment is in effect. Enter Y if visa wages are active and an N if they are not. If left blank, the system will interpret the field as an N. Columns 362 through 375 is where we can enter obligation gross wages paid to the employee during the reporting period when the obligation assessment is active. Because the obligation assessment is not currently active, we will enter 14 zeros. Michigan UIA does not require us to enter supplemental data 1 and supplemental data 2. So we will enter blanks in columns 376 through 487. Finally, we will enter 25 blanks so our record is the required 512 characters and our cursor is in position 513. We have now completed our EFW2 file and are ready to submit our wage report.